And now on the line is Senator Mark Wall from the Labour Party. Mark, welcome back to Near FM.
Thanks very much, Darren. Glad to be back.
Okay, Mark, I interviewed you for the first time on this station early last year, and we spoke about the bill you have going through the Oireachtas on trying to ban gambling advertising in the state. I will ask you to give our listeners an update on that legislation in a couple or few minutes, Mark. Uh, First of all, and this is the main reason I got in touch with you to this interview today, there was a letter of concern handed into the Department of the Taoiseach last month, signed by over 50 people, calling on the Taoiseach to end the state cooperation with the gambling industry body who call themselves the Gambling Awareness Trust. Can you tell me, Mark, what is your and your colleagues in the Labour Party in Leinster House view of this issue?
Well, the Gambling Awareness Trust has been set up, as you know, Darren, for a number of years now. So we've been pushing for the introduction of the Gambling Regulation Bill for a long time now. It's something that I've been very vocal on since I was first elected in the Shannon in 2020. And we know that there's been a bill in progress since 2013. So we've seen the bill progress through second stage in the Dáil, the Gambling Regulation Bill of 2022. And as part of that bill, a gambling regulator for the first time ever to be set up in Ireland. And our opinion of where this should go is that the gambling regulator needs to examine what's at play here and, regulate and do exactly what they are being appointed for, to regulate support for those that may have a gambling addiction here in Ireland. And that's very much the way we see this going. So we are aware of the letter going in. We will be raising it with the Minister, but we believe the right course of action and the long-awaited course of action is to ensure that the gambling regulator looks at what has happened in the past and ensures that we have a fit-for-purpose help for those with gambling addiction into the future. And I think that's very important. There's been a number of different lines through the new Gambling Regulation Bill as to how that would happen, and we are all waiting for the report stage, which is where the Gambling Bill is at the moment, to come through to examine the reports and the recommendations through that report so we can see what the next stage of it is. But for me, the Gambling Regulator is a very important step in relation to gambling in this country, and I think that's where it should be.
Yeah, I'm aware of that legislation and the Gambling Regulator. I believe the Gambling Regulator has already been appointed, but she hasn't formally started her work, hasn't she?
Yes. Yeah, the Gambling Regulators, and she's been at a number of conferences, etc., that I've attended, Darren, as well. So that's positive. But we have been waiting on the legislation to come through. There was a kind of commitment given that it would happen before Christmas. The latest information I have, which is from my colleague Sean Sherlock in a PQ reply from the Minister for State at the Department of Justice, Deputy James Brown, is that it will be another couple of months. So I'll be pushing for this again. Indeed, I raised it in the Shannon very recently as well, that we need to see this bill return through the Dáil in the first instance, and then to come obviously through the Shannon as well, where we will examine it in detail and ensure that, again, that it is fit for purpose. And that's something that we in the Labour Party are looking forward to. And as I say, we will be chasing this down to ensure it's back before us in the quickest possible time.
Do you believe, and your party believe, Mark, that the gambling industry body, the Gambling Awareness Trust, should not be funding addiction services and education services that are that are run by the state?
Well, at this stage, that's what's happening. And in fairness, the Gambling Trust have run, and I'm aware of some of the funding that they've done, and I've actually been and spoken to some of the people who benefited from that. But I think we need to look at that, and I think we need to look at what is the fit, and I'm using that word again, fit for purpose. And I believe that it should be run through the Gambling Regulator. So my belief on it, and this is a personal belief, Darren, is that money should be provided through the Gambling Regulator to ensure that we have courses, etc., and help for people who have a gambling addiction. And that should come from the Gambling Regulator rather than from an industry source. And that's something that, that's why we're waiting for the new bill to come through, and it's something that we will be pushing for in the Labour Party. We believe that this should be done. The regulator should be the person that ensures that money is sent back out through government, through state, and through government offices to those that need it most. And I'm aware of the great work that those on the front line are doing at the moment. They obviously need a lot more assistance, a lot more investment, and that's something we will be calling for as well, because unfortunately gambling addiction, as we all know, has grown as well. So look, what we believe in, I'm not going to run down the work that's been done to date. It was much needed, but now we have an opportunity to ensure that the gambling regulator is the person that ensures that state funding is given out to those that are on the front line, and that's something that we want to welcome and we need to get in place very quickly.
Last December 2022, the Department of Education the Minister for Education issued a circular telling schools in Ireland not to cooperate with the drink aware alcohol industry body. Is it your personal view or your party view or both that the same thing should be happening? Schools in Ireland should not be cooperating in school time or in funded time with the gambling body?
Well, I'm saying again to you, Darren, in fairness, like there has been some good work done, but it is my belief and it is my party's belief that this is why we wanted a gambling bill. We want to ensure that it's the state and the state-appointed regulator would be the person responsible for that money going through and being given out to those that are on the front line, those gambling addiction services that need so much money and need a lot more money than they're actually getting at the moment, let me add. So that's our belief. That's why we've pushed for the gambling bill to come through, why we welcome the regulator, and we believe that that's the way it should be done into the future, and that's the only way it should be done into the future.
Okay, Mark, I can't let you go today before I get an update off you on your news. If you have any on your bill before the Oireachtas to ban gambling advertising, is there any news with that?
Yeah, well, as part of the Gambling Regulation Bill 2022, the government have put in or proposed a watershed, Darren, that would ban gambling advertising between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. at night. Now, we have concerns in relation to that. Obviously, we would welcome, the fact that a watershed will come in the first place. But as you know, we called for a 24-hour ban on gambling advertising. And the issue in around that was the amount of people that were contacting us from various hours of the day, particularly earlier on when their children were at home with them, that they had to explain to children, very young children indeed, what gambling was. But we also have an issue that if the 9 p.m. curfew or watershed goes ahead, then you're going to have people who are settling down for the night, maybe after putting their children to bed or coming in from work, who then will be faced with gambling ads. And that's something that we would like to see debated. That's something that we obviously would like to see changed. It is the proposal at the moment to have that 9 p.m. watershed in, but it's something that we will push for and see where we go with it. But there has to be a watershed. We welcome that fact, but the Labour Party will be pushing for an extension of that watershed because we believe that that's where the harm is done, and that's what people who have a gambling addiction have told us in the past, Darren, and that's why we want to represent those, and we want to ensure, that those at risk of them developing a gambling addiction are not influenced by gambling ads. And, as I've said before on your programme and on other programmes, the amount of gambling ads you're faced when you sit down to watch television, particularly sport, is just enormous at this stage and needs to be regulated and needs to stop.
And your legislation, your personal legislation, would the best kind of window of opportunity be with the Gambling Regulation Bill to see that happen? Yeah,
absolutely. So, I've spoken to the Minister. The Minister has, I've spoken directly to the Minister. He's recognised our bill and he's incorporated that to the extent of putting in a watershed. Obviously, as I say, we in the Labour Party would like to go further. But this is an important first step. It needs to be debated, in through the Dáil, through the next stages of the Dáil, and then through the various stages in the Shannon. But we want to hear what the Minister is saying in relation to the 9 p.m. watershed. We will be pushing and debating that the watershed needs to be more and look at 24 hours, as it's done in other countries. And it is important to recognise that in Belgium and such places, and also in Holland, they've already introduced 24-hour bans, and there was reasons obviously behind that. So that debate needs to happen. We will be pushing to look at amendments through the Oireachtas and through the Gambling Regulation Bill as it proceeds through the Oireachtas. And, I can keep in contact with you and your listeners in relation to that, Darren.
Okay, Mark, just come towards the end of the interview. I understand that if there is a general election before the Gambling Regulation Bill gets signed off by President Higgins, that the whole process will have to start again. So would you agree that it would be a tragedy if the legislation wasn't passed by early next year?
Absolutely, and this is why we're a bit anxious. We're tabling. I'm raising it in Shannon. My colleagues are raising it in the Dáil. We put down parliamentary questions. I'm speaking to the Minister when I see him here in Leinster House as to when the bill is coming back before. So I appreciate there has to be reports, and those reports were done at committee stage, but we need to see this back as quickly as possible. We've waited, as I said in our introduction conversation, Darren, since 2013 to see something come before us as regards legislation as in the gambling industry in this country. I think now is the time. We have a bill, and we need to debate that, make sure, as I said, once again, that it's fit for purpose and get it through the Oireachtas as quickly as possible. So we are very hopeful, and we will be pushing to ensure that bill comes before us as early as possible in 2024, and then is enacted as quickly as possible after that.